I'll be coming here. I'll be coming. I'll be coming for tomorrow's session. क्या करूँ मैं?
We are recreating the we should be around 5 6 in the evening. और मेरे से किसी के घर पे है.
Yeah, I'm going to write all the steps of it. It's been really done well. And my brother is also not part of jazz. So I just wanted to drop in and say hi. My pleasure. I'll be young at that time. I work at WWF, so I was very close. But he sends his blessing when I was here. He was quite keen. He's really stopped moving around quite a bit. So not as exciting, as important. What kind of photography is here? How are you? Raise the cooker. Dad used to say unheard of.
And now Bhavna is co-writing with him, because Bhavna really Rajat's bad. I think that Bhavna was by his side for his Kumbh series, I think. Okay, she was funny because she was Rajat's bad. Hi, you made it. Hi, Lena, my daughter. And she got to make me right. Oh, wonderful. And so my son and Lena got engaged just a few weeks ago. Congratulations. Literature and so much more. And there's an inauguration happening in the auditorium this Friday. Around 2:30. Right, around 2:30. So Lena's office is in the UN resident coordinator right here. I mean, legally next to it.
In your gathering in British Council. Oh, now I know. I will invite you. So she and same batch. And then he was in the IA.
A very good afternoon. Welcome you all to Words in the Garden. So we'll start the show within 10 minutes. So thank you for reaching on time, and we're just about to start the show. We are welcome. We are just waiting for the chief guest to arrive. The moment he arrives, we'll start the show. This is the 7th edition of Words in the Garden. So, आपको मैं क्लू देना मेरे पास 2018. This is the 7th edition. We started with Mir Ki Dilli, then was Ghalib Ki Dilli. Dilli ki Sanskriti, Dilli ki Mahilaएं. So every year we choose a specific topic. On this we do discussions. We have panel discussion. It's going to stretch for 3 days, today, tomorrow and day after tomorrow. It's a very enriching session and the maximum participation is appreciated. We'll start the show within a few minutes. Let the chief guest arrive. Delhi possesses rich cultural heritage. To Words in the Garden, a celebration of literature, arts and ideas. In collaboration with India International Centre and ILM University, it's a great honor to welcome Professor Harvansh Chaturvedi, Director General, ILM University. Dr. Chaturvedi has held pivotal role, including as Professor and Director of BIMTech. He is also a founding member and executive president of the Education Promotion Society of India, EPSI, advocating for private higher education institutions across India. It is a great honor to welcome Professor Harvansh Chaturvedi, a distinguished scholar, to inaugurate the 7th edition of Words in the Garden. Now, may I request you, sir, to light the lamp along with Ms. Gayatri Rai, Pro-Chancellor, ILM University, Gurugram, Mr. Anand Rai, CEO, ILM University, Dr. Taruna Gautam, Vice-Chancellor, ILM University, Greater Noida, and Dr. Padma Kali Banerjee, Vice-Chancellor, ILM University, Gurugram. Along with it, I would request Ms. Manika Raikwar, COO of ILM University, Gurugram, and Ms. Nidhi Rajdhan, Director of the Department of Communication at ILM University, Gurugram, to join for the lighting of the lamp. Thank you all. Now, if I could please ask Ms. Gayatri Rai to say a few words.
Thank you all for joining us this afternoon for the 7th edition of Words in the Garden, a celebration of literature, arts, and ideas. This year's theme, Ancient Soul and Global Heart, Delhi's Living Heritage, reflects the city's deep-rooted cultural legacy and its evolving global identity. Over the years, Words in the Garden has explored diverse aspects of Delhi's essence. From Mir Ki Dili and Ghalib Ki Dili to Delhi Ki Sanskriti. This year, the festival will continue its tradition of thought-provoking discussions, literary dialogues, music recitals, and performances, bringing together distinguished voices from literature, the arts, and public life. I now request Professor Chaturvedi, Director General, ILM University, to please say a few words.
Organizers of this literary and cultural festival, eminent people who are joining this event, and young students of different higher education institutions, it's a great honor for me to be part of this art and culture festival. I know that all of you know about the rich heritage of Delhi, the national capital, which has been an epicenter of India's tumultuous history. For thousands of years, Delhi has been the center for all big changes which have taken place during ancient times. Maurya Empire, Mughal Empire, and of course, the independence movement of this country, not only the independence movement which has given the freedom to the nation in 1947, but even 1857, the first revolt against the British Empire, all the coordination and leadership has been provided by eminent leaders of India, sons and daughters of Mother India from Delhi, living at Delhi. So Delhi represents the microcosm of a plural society which is our country. We have the religious places of all religions. Near the Red Fort, you will find a Jain temple, a Shiva temple, and other religious places. And you will also be knowing very well that some of the legends in Indian literature, Indian art, they have been resident of Delhi. So I would like to say that if India has to become a culturally rich nation, along with for economically developed nation, India has to protect the heritage. India has to develop the ecosystem for the development of arts and culture, performing arts. I have been in Delhi, NCR for last 30 years, and I have enjoyed my visits to this place hundreds of times. India International Center, this is one of the bedrock of so many intellectual discourses, this auditorium, and the people who have founded India International Center. So India, if you want to study India, you are required to go to different places, but you have few days time. If you crisscross the streets and bazaars of Delhi, you will be able to know India. And here, the history is found in every street, every nook, and every corner. So I would like to express my gratitude for giving me this opportunity. I look forward for very exciting sessions during next 2 days. Some of the people who have inspired me, like Saima is sitting here, she is inspiring millions of young people to know the literary heritage of India, Hindi and Urdu. So many people I find here. I'm very excited. Mr. Saran is also here, who has led our country's external affairs ministry and all foreign policy. So they are the great people India has produced. With these words, I declare this festival open. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, so much for your inspiring words. Very well said, sir. And now we move on to our first panel discussion. Crossroads of Empire, how Delhi shaped and reflected Indian identity. A city of emperors and ideas, Delhi has long been at the heart of India's history and transformation. We have an esteemed panel with us today. To starting with S. Irfan Habib, a renowned historian and former Abdul Kalam Azad Chair, who brings a deep understanding of Delhi's historical influence. S. Swapna Little, a historian, author, and former convener of Intact Delhi chapter, with rich insights into Delhi's evolving heritage. R.J. Saima, a celebrated voice in Radio Mirchi, known for her passion for poetry, culture, and storytelling. Ms. Josna Mohan, an author, journalist, and former senior editor at India TV, bringing a media perspective to our discussions. Guiding this conversation is our moderator, Ms. Aditi Gupta, Assistant Professor at ILM University, Greater Noida. So no further ado, let's dive right into it. So over to you, Ms. Aditi Gupta.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to welcome everyone here today for the panel discussion on the theme of Crossroads of Empire, how Delhi shapes and reflects Indian history and Indian identity. For me, Delhi is not just a city. It's an idea, it's a symbol of power, it's a symbol of culture, resistance, and resilience. And from the grandiosity of Delhi at the time of Mughals, to its pragmatism during the time of British, it has seen a lot of struggles of independence, and it still holds the power at the center of India. So on that note, I would like to ask each one of you to please share your ideas about what Delhi embodies for you and what is the idea of crossroads of empire at the center of Delhi for you.
No, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. Second, I feel very diffident and not very sure whether I should really speak on Delhi when Professor Narayani Gupta is sitting in the middle of everyone in the hall. Because I will begin with her work, with little comments, what she has done for Delhi. And the book she wrote still commands a huge space in our imagination of the city. The rest of the people, like Swapna, followed from what she began in the 80s. But that work, now, when we talk of Delhi, see, the question you asked me was how we see Delhi today. Delhi as a city is a city which is multi-layered. It is not a city which we see today. Most of the people who come here, and it's not about Delhi alone, people who go to different cities, metropolitan cities for different opportunities. Delhi is a place which is not like any other city. Delhi is a multi-layered city. Unfortunately, people who come and live here, it's a diaspora of sorts. Like the people who are actually Delhiwalas, they've all become invisible. You can't even see them. We see people who have come from all over India, and they have all become Delhiwalas. But unfortunately, we seldom care to understand, and I'm not complaining, it's for all of us, we have hardly any time to even understand in the city where we live. But Delhi is a city where we ignore the history of the city while we pass through the streets of particularly South Delhi, or the place we are living here, just next door, Lodi Garden, and the tombs and the history it represents. The whole of South Delhi is dotted with history. Not with monuments, but those monuments have history as well. But unfortunately, we don't care to even think about that. That is one really misfortune of the city, because this city is very special. It's not like any other city. Delhi is a very special city because it has seen over the past millennium at least empires coming and going, not just political changes which have taken place, lots of cultural changes have come in, lots of new languages come up. Urdu is, there is lots of debate these days about Urdu, whether Urdu is the language of a particular community or not, but Delhiwalas claim that Urdu, in the development of Urdu, Delhi also had a role. People from Deccan also claim that Urdu came up in 18th century from their part of the world. In any case, Delhi is a place where you can see art, culture, politics, language, and music, and poetry, all sorts of things. The point is that we need to have time to even understand the city where we live in. And there are lots of books. Swapna has done extensively, lots of books in the recent past. And if we care to read them, and we should actually as citizens of the city. And this is what I want to say in the beginning, we'll follow later on.
I think Irfan sir has already said quite a bit on the significance of Delhi. I'd like to just talk about one thing. Before Delhi became this big capital of empires, etc., and of course of independent India, it was literally a crossroads in the sense that it was on a major throughway, on a major highway where lots of people passed through. And think about it, Ashoka put one of his inscriptions on that. I mean, in those days that was, Ajkal you have these big hoardings and all on the highways. That's a big sign that there were people passing through. So this idea of people passing through, stopping some of them, leaving their marks behind on this city has been something that's been going on for a long time. For me, that is a very important part of the identity of the city also.
Thank you so much, and I mean, it really feels very special, and I'm really honored to be sitting on the same panel as Irfan sir and Swapna ma'am, talking about Delhi. I've always felt that Delhi शहर नहीं एक महफिल है, and it actually is the heart of India. ये इतना बड़ा दिल है कि जो यहाँ आता है ना बस जाता है. It's very difficult for me to, speak to just a person who is a Delhiite on radio. But every person that I speak to has Delhi in him or her. And I think it is not just a physical, geographical territory, it's an emotion. It is a confluence. And it truly is representative of India in every single emotion that we thrive in as a country, as a culture, as a political power. I think I can only say that in any part of India, when somebody wants his or her voice to be heard, art to be seen, they say, "Chalo Delhi." So I think that's where Delhi is.
Thank you, Saima. And
I want to say, जो भी लोग आते हैं, as Saima said, दिल्ली में जाके बस जाते हैं, मगर I also want to say, जो इरफान साहब ने कहा था कि दिल्ली वाले कहीं छुप जाते हैं, and you know, I will acknowledge कि मैं वो हूँ, I'm not an original दिल्ली वाली. I came here, you know, for college and I stayed back and I became a दिल्ली वाली. मगर अब जैसे दिल्ली का हाल कभी-कभी देखते हैं, तो थोड़ा-थोड़ा, you know, there's a guilt that people like me who made Delhi their own, and Delhi made us their own, its own. You know, are we responsible for where Delhi is today? And, you know, that is increasingly something that comes into my mind. We've taken everything we could from Delhi. Its culture, its, you know, its socio-economical, its identity. I mean, we've made it our identity. But have we done justice to Delhi today?
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, you talked about Delhi being actually at the crossroads. So your books, your work has been extensively on colonial history of Delhi as well as of the Mughal time. So how did these periods, according to you, shape the city's urban as well as social identity?
Whether you look at the Mughals or during the British period, really one major way in which that period has left its imprint on what Delhi is today is in the shape of these two historic cities, capital cities that we have. One is the Mughal city, which was Shahjahanabad, which we today call Old Delhi, the area around Chandni Chowk, you know, that is what people recognize, so I'll use that. So Shahjahanabad is the Mughal city, and of course the British city, which is New Delhi. And New Delhi also somewhat problematically called Lutyens' Delhi by quite a few people, but these are, I would say that, I mean, there's so many other things that one could go into, but Delhi specifically, we should look at these cities, their town plans, their architecture, the kind of, you know, when we start to examine how these urban spaces, how these these neighborhoods really shaped how people lived there, continue to shape the lifestyles in many ways. These are different spaces, and when we look at the spaces, we realize how we are shaped, how our lives are shaped by where we live also. So the gullies of Shahjahanabad foster a very different kind of lifestyle than, say, the flats or bungalows or whatever it is of Lutyens' Delhi. Chandni Chowk is very different from India International Center, and how those, you know, they represent different parts of Delhi's past, shall we say.
So, like ma'am said, that it's the place that we live in makes who we are as well. So, sir, my next question is to you. You have extensively worked on Bhagat Singh and Maulana Azad, two very different personalities, right? And you have captured their ideological struggles in Delhi. So how did the city shape their ideas?
See, before I come to what you are saying, and I just wanted to talk about Delhi and the work I have done on Delhi a couple of years ago, which I think is more important than what you have asked. I will come to that. And what I'm trying to say is more relevant in the context of what is happening in the past 1 week. Delhi is a place, is a city which saw the emergence of modern science in the vernacular. This city, Calcutta, was a place where something happened which was anglicized. The Bengalis, in a huge way, took to English language for science or even for other activities. But Delhi produced a vernacular renaissance where Urdu became a medium of communication of modern science. And so people like Master Ramchandra, very few people know about him, unfortunately. He was a student of Delhi College, as it used to be called, in 1825 when it was established. He was a student there, then he was a teacher there. Then he was part of the Vernacular Translation Society, where he wrote books in Urdu. He wanted modern science to be communicated to people whose language in those times, irrespective of their religion, was Urdu. And he did that very effectively. He translated large number of modern scientific texts into Urdu, which were used as textbooks. Munshi Zakaullah, his own student, again got involved in the same exercise, writing books on mathematics, on science, translating English works into Urdu. So Delhi was a place which saw the emergence of this group of people who produced scientific texts in Urdu, in people's language of those times. So that is the period which I have extensively worked on for about 10 years. Now, coming to Bhagat Singh, first of all. For Bhagat Singh, Delhi is very, very important. Not that he crisscrossed, while traveling, came to Delhi, stayed here for some time, worked for Milap, wrote for Milap for some time. The one major activity, revolutionary activity Bhagat Singh was involved in, happened in Delhi. When they decided to bomb the assembly, to make the deaf hear, that is the title of the book, which is not here, but the book which I wrote earlier, to make the deaf hear. And before bombing on 8th or 9th April 1928, today's Qudsiya Garden, we don't even bother to know what this garden is. We just pass by, which is close to ISBT. And the place where I live, very close by, Civil Lines, that is another colonial area, which I live just few yards away from Metcalfe House, one of the classic buildings of those times. Unfortunately, DRDO took over, and it is not accessible for anybody to even go and have a look. But that is a very special house. And if you pass on that red light near that Changiram Akhada after ISBT, you can see the red building. It's all covered, surrounded by modern buildings. But that is a beautiful structure, which Metcalfe built, and used to sit over there with his hookah. Now, when you read Bhagat Singh's account or history, you find that particular garden, Qudsiya Garden, is very important in his life. Because when he was going to bomb in the assembly, and Sukhdev, his colleague and revolutionary associate, told Durga Bhabi, who was Bhagwati Charan Vohra's wife and who was herself a revolutionary and very close to Bhagat Singh, said if you want to meet Bhagat Singh, because they didn't want to share the news, what they are going to do. If you want to meet him, because you may not be able to meet him for a few days to come. So please come to Delhi early morning at 10 o'clock. So they traveled from Lahore, came to that Qudsiya Garden, and Bhagat Singh reached. They brought oranges and things Bhagat Singh loved to eat. And so they spent 1 hour. After 1 hour, the news spread that Bhagat Singh and Batugeshwar Dutt have gone and bombed the assembly. So this is something which is associated with Bhagat Singh's life. Then he was arrested, kept in a jail which has disappeared. We don't even know that there used to be a jail where Maulana Azad Medical College exists today. There used to be Delhi jail, opposite Indian Express and that Bahadur Shah Zafar Marg. And Bhagat Singh was kept in that jail in a cell where, when I was doing this book, and we also did a documentary on Bhagat Singh in 2008. So while shooting for that documentary, we went to hunting places which are associated with Bhagat Singh's life, and we found that there is a plaque in the campus which nobody notices, where you can see that Bhagat Singh lived in this cell, which was situated here for 6 months or 7 months, whatever time during the case was going on. So that is one. Second is Firozshah Kotla. Firozshah Kotla, nobody knows how Bhagat Singh is associated with Firozshah Kotla. Firozshah Kotla is a place where 8th, 9th September 1928, they organized a a meeting where Hindustan Republican Association was changed to Hindustan Socialist Republican Association, because Bhagat Singh wanted that socialism is important and it should be reflected in the name of the organization we stand for. So that debate took place for 2 days. So in the ruins of Firozshah Kotla, that meeting took place. So that there are lots of other things one can talk about, but these are few things which are very central to Bhagat Singh's career as a revolutionary, which was very short. When he was hanged at the age of 23, so there was hardly any time. He only had 6 or 7 years of active life, and which was marked by journalism. He wrote extensively against caste, against communalism, against capitalism, for socialism, against untouchability. Now, these are things which he wrote about universal brotherhood. The first article he wrote in 1924, which was published from Matwala magazine from Calcutta in Hindi, was on universal brotherhood, Vishwa Bandhuta. And it is such a complicated stuff. You can't even ask any young person of that age. He was 17 at that time when he wrote. And how he engages with this issue of universal brotherhood. So these are things which are very important in Bhagat Singh's life, and Delhi is very important for him. I don't think I have time to continue with Maulana Azad. We can.
Thank you so much, sir. One thing that I really like that you talked about is that how people in Delhi used its vernacular, Urdu, to reach people rather than opting to use English like many other cities. So that now brings me to my next question for Saima, because you are still working in that area. You are talking to people, you are trying to keep this language alive through your radio show called Urdu Ki Pathshala. So how do you think that as a radio personality you engage with Delhi's voice on daily basis, today's Delhi voice?
I must say that initially we never used to think like this. Hindi or Urdu ka zikr kabhi nahi hota tha, Hindustani zaban. I remember when I was, I think 6 or 7, and somebody asked me that, which language do you speak in? So I kept thinking, because it was not just Hindi, not pure Urdu also. That was the first time my father told me that we speak in Hindustani zaban. And Hindustani is, again, the confluence of Hindi and Urdu. In one sentence that we speak, हम कभी नहीं पहचान पाएंगे कौन सा लफ्ज़ हिंदी है, कौन सा उर्दू है, उर्दू ने किससे बोरो किया है, हिंदी ने किससे बोरो किया है. और that's when we started learning about Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb, which is so inside us. We never knew about this, and today's times, with all the challenges that there are, jahan pe, the very concept, idea of unity is being challenged, these are the things that we have to study minutely. What makes us so beautiful and so envious to the entire world is the culture. And Delhi is neither Lucknow nor Punjab, but both. हम, मैं, सब जुड़ा हुआ है. और इसलिए जब वो एक नैरेटिव बहुत ज़्यादा चलने लगा कि ये हिंदी है, वो उर्दू है, तो कहीं ना कहीं ये सामने लाना बहुत ज़रूरी था कि हम सब में जो चीज़ हमारे खून में शामिल है, उसमें से हम उन दोनों चीज़ों को अलग नहीं कर सकते. ये हमारी आइडेंटिटी है. मैं बस स्टैंड पे खड़ा प्रतीक्षा कर रहा हूँ नहीं बोलते हम, इंतज़ार कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन हमने कभी इसके बारे में सोचा नहीं. लेकिन आज अगर इसके बारे में सोचने पे मजबूर किया जा रहा है तो फिर इसको पढ़ना शुरू करते हैं, देखना शुरू करते हैं कि हम इतने खूबसूरत क्यों हैं. सो दिल्ली वो शहर है जहाँ पे हिंदुस्तानी ज़बान हम बोलते हैं, और वो एक इतने खूबसूरत तरीक़े से आती है. जैसे कि स्वप्ना मैम ने बताया कि पुरानी दिल्ली और नई दिल्ली का जो कॉन्फ्लुएंस है, मतलब जब मैं रेडियो पे बात करती हूँ तो मुझे पता है कि कोई मुझे साउथ दिल्ली में भी सुन रहा है, कोई मुझे पुरानी दिल्ली में भी सुन रहा है, किसी को यो-यो हनी सिंह भी सुनना है तो किसी को गुलजार भी सुनना है. और वो क्या चीज़ है जो कि दोनों को
अच्छा महसूस कराती है, वो है ये ज़बान, हमारी हिंदुस्तानी ज़बान, हमारी वो तहज़ीब, हमारा वो कल्चर। दिल्ली वालों को जब गुस्सा भी आता है तो मेरा ये फ़र्ज़ है कि मैं उन्हें याद दिलाऊं कि हम दिल्ली वाले हैं, हम बड़े दिल के लोग हैं। सो जब ये चैलेंजेस आने लगे कि ये बंटने और बांटने की जो लैंग्वेज है वो ज़्यादा बुलंद होने लगी, तो ये अब हमारा दायित्व है, हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, हमारा फ़र्ज़ है इंसानियत के नाते कि हम उन सारी खूबसूरती को थोड़ा सा हाईलाइट करें जो हमने कभी जानी नहीं। आई डोंट थिंक हमने कभी सोचा कि हमारे शहरों में ये जो छोटे छोटे कल्चरल हिस्टोरिकल जगहें हैं वो क्यों ज़रूरी हैं। वो इसलिए ज़रूरी नहीं है कि हम बोलें ओ यहाँ पे वो बैठा करते, जैसे बचपन में हम जाते थे कहते थे अच्छा वहाँ वो राजा बैठा करता था। अब इसलिए ज़रूरी नहीं है, अब ज़रूरी इसलिए है कि हम समझें कि हमारे गुज़रे हुए दिनों में जो चीज़ें हुई उनमें से क्या अच्छा था जो हम मिस करते जा रहे हैं, और क्या गलतियाँ थीं जो अब हमें रिपीट नहीं करनी है, जो हम अपनी आंखों के सामने देखते हैं। तो रेडियो के ज़रिए पिछले 25-27 साल से मैं शहर से बात कर रही हूँ, और वो सारे बदलाव जो कि हम सोशल मीडिया पे सुनते हैं वो कितने ज़मीनी हैं, कितने हकीकी हैं, ये रेडियो के ज़रिए जानने से मिलता है। और जिस ज़बान की हम बात कर रहे हैं उस ज़बान के बारे में मैंने इसलिए भी बात करनी शुरू की है कि ज़बान से हम ख़ुद को एक्सप्रेस करते हैं, और आजकल मुझे ऐसा महसूस होता है कि लोग कह नहीं पाते जो वो महसूस कर रहे हैं। तो उनको एक कॉन्फिडेंस देना कि आप आएँ, ये हमारी ज़बानें हैं। इंग्लिश हम सीखते हैं और वो शुरू होती है मजबूरी से, उसके बाद वो उसकी एस्पिरेशनल क्वालिटी भी हो जाती है, मगर हमारा जो कल्चर है, हमारी जो तहज़ीब है वो हमारी ज़बानों में है। हम जैसे उसमें ख़ुद को एक्सप्रेस कर पाएंगे और किसी लैंग्वेज में नहीं कर पाएंगे। इसलिए जब वो इन ज़बानों से दूर होते जा रहे हैं तो मुझे लगता है कि उनको ख़ुद से मिलाने के लिए इन ज़बानों के करीब लाना पड़ेगा।
Thank you so much. That was really wonderfully put, and I really do believe that as a teacher of language myself, literature, that if you want to keep your identity to yourself, if you want to keep your culture to yourself, then I think your language needs to be the first thing that you need to, keep very near to your heart. And then that brings me to Jyotsna ma'am. You have just recently launched your book Pratap, and where you have attempted to do the same, right? That's what you have done, and it also highlights a lot of contemporary crises, contemporary issues. So I would like you to talk about that a little bit.
Actually, I was going to, just continue from where Saima said. And it's a really small anecdote. So my grandfather was the editor of Pratap. It's an Urdu daily that started in Lahore. And my earliest, memory of him has been him writing his editorials every day. And he would write in Urdu, so that kalam would go right to left. And for the longest time, I thought this is how you write. It was so ingrained in us because this is what we would see at home. Every afternoon, he would be writing, और वो लिख रहे हैं, उनकी कलम चल रही है. And that kalam stopped briefly during emergency, that all of those 18 months or whatever, when he absolutely just stopped, and the censorship. But वो time जो था, वो एक language थी और वो एक correct kind of nationalism tha. The combination of two, I think, gave us the results that we are missing today. Because वो language भी struggle कर रही है क्योंकि वो language is being taken, I think it's a very lazy interpretation of that language as is of many things that don't, speak to a particular audience. And similarly, I think from where that newspaper started to where we are today, many definitions have changed. Nationalism has changed. Who or what is a martyr has changed. Patriotism has changed. So those definitions, I think, have also, I won't say they've evolved, not at all. I think we need to look back at what we've lost along the way. And our newspapers closed down, but that's not the only thing that's closed today. we've lost a lot in this journey. And, you know, when we started, I wrote this with my father, looking back at the history of the paper, which was about, you know, in 1919. So it was started by my great-grandfather, and they stood against the British Raj. You know, they were penalized every other week, 5,000 rupees, which was like a princely sum those days. And yet they never lost their voice, because they knew when you have to speak up, you have to speak up, that, you know, speak truth to power. And I think that is the big thing that we've lost today along the way.
So, ma'am, can you describe for me what is that one characteristic of Delhi that according to you best represents Indian identity? And this question I would like to open to everybody.
I think the fact that it embraces everybody that comes to the city. And it makes you feel special. I came from Jalandhar, a small town girl, you know, and I wanted those city lights and everything. And it gave me everything and much, much more. Which is why I say, I don't know if I've done enough for it.
Because she's already spoken about something that I would have had. But I think Delhi मेरे लिए एक आवाज़ है. वो आवाज़ जो जब तक गूंजती रहेगी, जिसमें जब तक ताकत रहेगी, तब तक उम्मीद रहेगी. For the entire country.
I really don't know that I have anything very profound to say in this regard, which hasn't been said over here right now also. Yeah, I mean, you know, when you know, one thing that made me think when you said about Dilli Wale Kaun Hai, and I thought about one person who often comes to mind is the poet Ghalib. Huh? But I think all of us know that he did not come to the city till he was 13, right? So the quintessential Delhi person is somebody who's come from outside and has made this their home. And that has gone on for such a very long time. And by the way, newspapers also. You know, I was thinking of one of the older newspapers that we had, the Delhi Urdu Akhbar. Balki Irfan Saab, when he was talking about Master Ramchandar also was one of the pioneers of modern journalism, because he used to, I mean, bring out two popular science periodicals, and but there was the more conventional sort of newspaper also, and the editors of those newspapers were very forthright in their criticisms of what's going on around them. They would criticize government policies. They would criticize, of course, you know, sometimes you read those newspapers and you feel that nothing has changed because sadkein kharab hain, crime बढ़ रहा है, you know, all those kind of things. Also, they talked up about, you know, about social reform, the need for widow remarriage. All of those things used to come up in the newspapers. So, really, there is this timeless quality of the kinds of things that seem to exercise us, but you know, it's been around for a long time.
मेरे लिए तो एक्चुअली मैं, क्योंकि अब आज के ज़माने में तो एनसीआर का हिस्सा है, मेरठ के हमारा घर है, तो दिल्ली तो कोई ख़ास फ़र्क नहीं था. जब 50 साल पहले दिल्ली में आए तो लगा कि वो इट्स एन एक्सटेंशन ऑफ द सिटी आई बिलोंग टू. In any case, so बावजूद इसके कि we talk about so critically about Delhi, its pollution, its traffic, and all sorts of things, and I do myself. लेकिन मैं दिल्ली से 2 दिन से ज़्यादा comfortably दूर नहीं रह सकता. 2 दिन के बाद लगता है कि दिल्ली is calling you. You come back. So you don't come back to just to home, but you come back to the city, because that city which calls you. So there is something special feeling. How to express it, I don't know, but this is how I can talk about the city. Now what Swapna just said, like Delhi जो है वो like 19th century में मास्टर रामचंद्र ने फवादुल नाजरीन एक अखबार निकाला 1842-41 में, 10 साल चला. उस फवादुल नाजरीन में वो उन्होंने ये अनाउंस किया कि मैं इसमें कोई शेर व शायरी की बात नहीं करूँगा, कि उर्दू को सिर्फ शेर व शायरी से जोड़ा जाता है, प्यार मोहब्बत इश्क से जोड़ा जाता है, और मेरा कोई मकसद नहीं है उसमें जाने का. उसके लिए और लोग हैं। मैं सिर्फ दुनिया की जो हमारी ज़िंदगी की जो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, जो एजुकेशन से रिलेटेड चीज़ें हैं, साइंस पर्टिकुलरली, तो उसमें वो सिर्फ वो बात होती थी। और मेरे पास उसकी कुछ कॉपीज़ हैं। जब मैं काम किया तो रज़ा लाइब्रेरी रामपुर, हैदराबाद में इदारा अदबियात हैदराबाद, आसफिया लाइब्रेरी हैदराबाद, वहाँ से कुछ फवादुल नाज़रीन की कॉपीज़ मिली जो भी हैं मेरे पास। उसमें आप अगर देखेंगे तो उर्दू ख़ास तौर से, जो आज बहुत सारी डिबेट चल रही है उर्दू के बारे में, उर्दू में साइंस को कैसे कम्युनिकेट किया रामचंद्र ने, वो बाकायदा डायग्राम, न्यूटन्स लॉ, फंक्शन ऑफ पुली ना, उसका वो पुली बनाकर उसका पूरा डायग्राम बनाकर एक्सप्लेन करते थे। कॉस्मोलॉजी के बारे में बात हो रही है तो पूरा कॉस्मॉस का एक फिगर बनाते थे हाथ से। तो ये सब चीज़ें उस वक्त एक्सप्लेन करने की कोशिश किया। सड़क अहनी, ट्रेन का नाम दिया सड़क अहनी उर्दू में, और उसका तस्वीर बनाई, क्योंकि जब तक ट्रेन हिंदुस्तान में नहीं आई थी तो ये सब यूरोपियन डेवलपमेंट्स थे। ये बताने की कोशिश की आप कि ये क्या शेर व शायरी की बात कर रहे हो ना, उर्दू कोई शेर व शायरी की ज़बान नहीं है। इल्म सीखो, साइंस सीखो उर्दू में। और उस ऑब्जेक्टिव से उन्होंने उर्दू को एक व्हीकल के तरह इस्तेमाल किया, और सब इस दिल्ली शहर में। और अफसोस की बात यह है कि आज उस ज़बान को आप पता नहीं क्या क्या कह रहे हैं, है ना। वो इस्लाम से जोड़ा, भाई इस्लाम के साथ ज़बान उर्दू थोड़ी आई है हिंदुस्तान में। इस्लाम के साथ तो फ़ारसी आई होगी, अरबी आई होगी, उर्दू तो यहीं पैदा हुई। और उर्दू में तो कितने % वर्ड्स तो संस्कृत और हमारे लोकल ज़बानों के हैं। तो ये सब चीज़ें एक्चुअली भूलना चाहिए। और ये दिल्ली की जो तारीख़ है हमारी, दैट explains to us very well that how dearly we should stick to these inheritances which are very valuable. Unfortunately, we just bypass them, ignore them. And Delhi is a city which actually gives you a lot. And that is the strength of this city, that it gives you the past in varied colors. I am not talking against any other city. All those cities have their own history. But Delhi actually is very, very layered, very diversified. Because of political developments, because of the different people who came from outside India, with Islam, before Islam, and all those people came and left their mark on the city. And so for us, this is an inheritance which has come to us, which is very diverse. And we should respect that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. But I think what you are saying is people living in Delhi, they don't just realize it while living in Delhi, that how much Delhi has been, inside them. I would like to share one anecdote of myself. When I came here as an outsider as well. I'm from UP and I came here when I was 18. I came here for my education, and I stayed here till my master's, and then I was like, ho gaya mera. I need to get out of here. I don't think that I'd like Delhi. And I went to another city, Bangalore. And it was, I think, 6 months, and I wanted to come back. I just wanted to come back because I just couldn't leave Delhi. And ma'am has extensively worked on both Delhis, let's say Old Delhi and New Delhi. So ma'am, where do you think that, are they coexisting right now? Are they at clashes? Or how is it that we are still with both of them?
The sad thing about what we call Old Delhi, which was Shahjahanabad, is that, and this was a factor of, and of course Narayani ma'am has talked about Delhi between the two empires. What happened was that once particularly that New Delhi got built, with the shifting of the capital and the building of New Delhi, Old Delhi, Shahjahanabad overnight became Old Delhi. Because Shahjahanabad, Delhi has had this very peculiar history of older cities becoming the old Delhis. So there was a time when the Mehroli area, which was actually the first Delhi, Dillika, that became Dehli-e-Kohna, the old Delhi. It became Dehli-e-Kohna. It became Old Delhi. So the older city, as soon as another city is found it, the older one becomes the old Delhi. So really Shahjahanabad became old Delhi, but more seriously, it became a place, because you know what colonial rule was. It was very divided, in socially. And old Delhi then became a place where the so-called native lived. And it was the colonial administration which controlled New Delhi. All the resources were, whether it was the municipal facilities, etc., all resources were given to New Delhi. And Old Delhi, the kind of sort of deterioration that we see signs of still, of infrastructure deteriorating, all of that, that neglect at a municipal level, those kind of things set in. And unfortunately, we've not been able to really address some of those problems. And I feel sorry about Shahjahanabad, because there is so much that it can give us, and so much we have not really thought about what it should be, what it can be, how the lives of the people who live there can be better, the lives of people who work out of there, and how much more it can contribute to our city. And so that imbalance that set in because of a certain colonial history has unfortunately continued. So that is unfortunate.
Okay. So, ma'am, Delhi has is also currently the political capital of India, right? And how do you see the city is reflecting India's contemporary broader struggles? For example, it has always seen as a powerful space for dissent to start or take place. So why do you think that it is Delhi? And my question is to both of you, ma'am, because you have been working with contemporary Delhi.
I think, it is but natural, because all our political power is here. And so the city is aware. The city is aware that if you talk about a certain thing, if you talk against a certain thing, it will be heard. And not just the political, powers that be, a common voice of Delhi feels much more empowered than other cities of the country. Because he or she or they know that they will be heard. You talk about, the entire Nirbhaya protest. ऐसा नहीं था कि उससे पहले रेप इंसिडेंट्स नहीं होते थे, बट जब दिल्ली में आवाज़ उठी तो फिर और शहरों को भी वो एक हिम्मत मिली कि अगली बार वो भी आवाज़ उठाएंगे. तो एक बात तय है कि जो मुद्दों पे आवाज़ एक नेचुरली, जिसको बोलते हैं कि जो रनवे है फॉर एनीथिंग टू टेक ऑफ इज़ दिल्ली. एंड पार्लियामेंट की प्रोसीडिंग्स में वो बहुत it is not just like a figment of imagination. We know, even when I'm on radio and I'm talking about something, at the back of my mind I feel, and I actually talk to the authorities, talk to the ministers, saying, if you are listening to me right now, this is what a common man of Delhi is saying. मैं रेडियो पे जब शो करती हूँ तो मैं ये कहती हूँ कि सुनाने वाली दुनिया में कोई सुनने वाला होना चाहिए, तो मैं हूँ. तो आप ये नंबर है, इस पे कॉल कीजिए. मुझे आपके नाम की ज़रूरत नहीं, आप रेडियो पे नज़र नहीं आएंगे, लेकिन जो आप कहना चाहते हैं, जो आपकी फ़िक्र है ख़ुद को लेकर, इस शहर को लेकर, अपने पड़ोसी को लेकर, वो आप प्लीज़ कहिए, क्योंकि कोई ना कोई है इस शहर में जो आपको सुन रहा होगा, जहाँ से हो सकता है कुछ बदलाव शुरू हो. सो वी आर अवेयर कि आपकी आवाज़ यहाँ पे अनसुनी नहीं जाएगी. एंड we have, like, Jantar Mantar and all these places where protests and dissents, they keep happening, keeping the entire spirit of democracy alive. So I think, Delhi in that space has always been a very powerful city that way. So yeah.
And I think it's also the fact that, I mean, not just that it's the seat of power and it is a powerful city, but it's also a city that perseveres and persists. You know, I mean, if you go back, even if you go back to partition, the refugees, the number of refugees who came here and started rebuilding, you know, it allows you that space to start from scratch, to rebuild, to continue rebuilding. So, you know, every time you hear people saying, you know, what has happened to Delhi? Delhi is a mess. Delhi's, you know, pollution, this. I feel like, you know, let's keep giving it a chance because, like she said, you know, there are people who speak, and it's not just that people are aware politically. I don't have the same kind of political conversations that I have in Delhi anywhere else, except for my dining table at home. It's a fact, you know, you can go to Bombay, you go anywhere else, you do not have the kind of conversations that we have here. We are invested in the city. We are invested as people, and it bothers us. Whether we can get frustrated, you know, about the fact that things are not moving, but I think at the end of the day, every one of us wants to give Delhi that one last chance, every single time.
And might I also add, correct me if I'm wrong, that because we've had all these empires in Delhi, I think this city is used to having political discussions. वो मंडली में बैठ के, वो ग्रुप में बैठ के, वो घरानों में बैठ के. You were talking about शाहजहानाबाद. अभी कुछ वक्त पहले मैं शाहजहानाबाद से मैंने 7 दिन उसकी सड़कों से, घरों से शो किया. और वाकई वो हवेलियाँ आज भी हैं, उनके छज्जे आज भी जुड़े हुए हैं. हम वहाँ पर जाकर मुझे एक चीज़ महसूस हुई कि उस इंसानियत और उस जज्बे और उस ब्रदरहुड जिसकी हम बात करते हैं, जब हम शाहजहानाबाद जाते हैं और वहाँ देखते हैं और देखने के बाद ऐसा लगता है ये भी है, तो समझ जाइए कि हम कितने दूर आ गए हैं अपनी तहजीब से. और वहाँ लोग ख़ुद को नहीं कहते कि हम पुरानी दिल्ली में रहते हैं, वो कहते हैं हम दिल्ली वाले हैं. So yeah, I mean, you know, those little things are very important, and I think हम शहर का टच लूज़ करते जा रहे हैं क्योंकि हम अपने घरों में बंद हो गए. बस इस शहर ने अपनी बाहें कभी नहीं बंद की. So I think वो टच एंड फील करते रहना चाहिए.
मेरे ख्याल से हमारी जो पिछले कुछ जो चेंजेस हुए हैं उसमें बहुत से ऐसी चेंजेस हैं जो हमें पसंद नहीं है. सब लोग उसके बारे में कुछ ना कुछ बोलते रहते हैं, लेकिन एक जो चेंज इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में जो डिस्कशन हम आज कर रहे हैं उसके लिए एक जो पॉजिटिव चेंज है वो एक तो मेट्रो है. मेट्रो ने पुरानी दिल्ली को जोड़ा. पुरानी दिल्ली ऐसी थी जहाँ लोग करीम में खाना जो एक प्रोजेक्ट हुआ करता था लोगों के लिए कि वहाँ कहाँ पार्क करेंगे, कैसे जाएंगे, ट्रैफिक को कैसे पहुँचेंगे. अब कुछ ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. अब इट्स सच अ कनेक्ट विद ओल्ड दिल्ली. फूड लाइक पीपल जो वहाँ की जो पुराने खाने की करीम को भूल जाइए, और बहुत सारे हैं अच्छे जो अभी तक बिल्कुल इनविजिबल थे. अब क्योंकि मैं तो कम जाता हूँ लेकिन बच्चे हमारे सब जाते हैं, दोस्त जाते हैं, तो आराम से ऐसे नाम सुनने में आए जो कभी हमने सुने ही नहीं थे. जो those are hubs of wonderful food of different variety, vegetarian as well as not vegetarian. So metro ने जो accessibility बढ़ाया और शाहजहानाबाद को सो कॉल्ड पुरानी दिल्ली को नई दिल्ली से जोड़ा, वो फासला कम किया, वो एक बड़ा पॉजिटिव डेवलपमेंट है. उससे एक तो ये हुआ है कि दिल्ली एक हो गई. कम से कम लगता है कि दिल्ली पुरानी दिल्ली कुछ अलग नहीं है, वो भी उसी दिल्ली का हिस्सा है जहाँ और सब लोग हैं, क्योंकि वहाँ आप आसानी से पहुँच सकते हैं. दूसरी चीज़ हिस्टोरिकली अगर आप देखें तो मेरा अपना वो ये है कि जो 3 मेजर इवेंट्स हैं दिल्ली की बायोग्राफी में, वो एक तो 1857 जिसने मेजर चेंज दिल्ली की टोपोग्राफी में, डेमोग्राफी में और पॉलिटिक्स में लाया, और उससे बहुत कुछ बदला उस पीरियड में. तफसील में जाना नहीं चाहूँगा, वक्त भी नहीं है. दूसरा 1911-12 जो ट्रांसफ़र ऑफ कैपिटल फ्रॉम कलकत्ता टू दिल्ली, उसने बहुत कुछ चेंजेस उसमें आई, और उसका जो चेंजेस के बाद जो दिल्ली बना वो फ्लैग स्टाफ रोड और पुरानी दिल्ली जो विधानसभा वगैरह है जहाँ मुझ जैसे लोग रहते हैं, वो एक दिल्ली है जो नई दिल्ली बनने से पहले का दिल्ली है. वो पीछे इंटररेग्नम जिसको कहना चाहिए. तीसरी चीज़ है 1947. 1947 brought about a huge change demographically, जो तो हम सब लोग जानते ही हैं, प्लस जो नए इलाके दिल्ली के बने, जो रिफ्यूजीज़ की कॉलोनीज़ बनी, जो हटमेंट से शुरुआत में जो बिल्कुल बहुत ही ऐसे लोगों को दिया गया जो सब कुछ छोड़ के आए थे पीछे, तो उनके लिए बना, वो आज बड़े बड़े कॉलोनीज़ हो गई। पटेल नगर और ईस्ट पटेल नगर, वेस्ट पटेल नगर, साउथ पटेल नगर, उससे आगे सारा, ये सब उसी वक्त के इलाके हैं जो पहले एग्जिस्ट नहीं करते थे। तो दिल्ली में जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन हुआ है इन 3 ख़ास तौर से इवेंट्स की वजह से, उसने भी दिल्ली की शक्ल को काफ़ी बदला, कुछ पॉजिटिवली, कुछ नॉट सो पॉजिटिवली। लेकिन ये एक दिल्ली की तारीख का हिस्सा है, और उसको हम बहुत छोटे मोटे, अब 1-2 इवेंट्स आपने मौलाना आज़ाद के बारे में पूछा तो मैं तफसील में नहीं बताऊंगा, लेकिन ये कि कुछ चीज़ें जैसे उनकी ज़िंदगी से दिल्ली कितना नज़दीक, 1923 का जो कांग्रेस का सेशन हुआ वो दिल्ली में हुआ, जिसके प्रेसिडेंट मौलाना आज़ाद थे। He was the youngest president of the Congress Party till today, at the age of 35. He had joined Congress Party only in 1920. He met Gandhi for the first time in 1920. After he was out of exile, he was exiled by the British in near Ranchi in today's Jharkhand, where he lived for 3 years. And he was exiled there not because he was a politician. Till then, he was not even a member of the Congress Party. He was a journalist who was a danger to the British Empire. That's what the British files say. One of the most dangerous persons for the empire as a journalist, because he wrote something very dangerous, in his Al-Hilal, in his Al-Balagh, in his other papers which he used to bring out. So he became dangerous to the empire even before he became a politician, as a journalist. So that was his first career. Lots of politicians were actually journalists and barristers. That is the most productive careers for politicians, for politics, even today. Now, one is 1923. Second is, and this event in Delhi is very important, very few people know about it. In 1940, Muslim League passed a resolution of dividing the country, Pakistan resolution. Against that resolution, the Muslims of India, and I'm saying this for those who say that Muslims wanted for Pakistan, so they all should go to Pakistan. This is their presence here is an incomplete, the whole thing was incomplete, so that should be completed. They don't realize that there were a huge section of Indian population which was not led by Maulana Azad alone. Unfortunately, Muslim League and Muhammad Ali Jinnah, they projected Maulana Azad as a showboy of the Congress Party, just to prove that it is actually only Maulana Azad who is with them. Rest of the Muslims are with us, which is a fallacy. There was a huge section of population of India, Muslim population, which was not part of the Muslim League. Muslim League was a party of landlords, of zamindars, of bureaucrats, of business people who were feeling threatened and wanted to divide the country in the name of religion. And there were Hindu communalists who were part of the same agenda. And it's all part of history, we can see that. Now, in 1940, and that's where I want to talk about Delhi, in 1940, a huge Azad Muslim conference was organized in this city against the Muslim League resolution to divide the country. The archival records show that 75,000 to 1 lakh Muslims gathered, which is a huge number for 1940. The Muslim League decided to show black flags to Samru, Allah Baksh Samru, who was a leader, who was a prime minister of Sindh, as they were called in those times. And he was one of those anti-Muslim League activists. And the Muslim League people, when they saw the huge numbers of Muslims who turned out for this Azad Muslim conference, they didn't have the courage to even come out and show one black flag. Forget about protesting in large numbers. So they all gave up because the number was so huge. So this city has that sort of history. And we hardly actually know all these things. And there are lots of things which we can share about that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So this discussion so far has shown us that Delhi is more than just the capital city. It is a symbol of power, culture, and resilience, and how it has absorbed every empire that has come here to stay, or even for crossing it, and every ruler and every movement that has erupted out of here. Now I would like to open the floor for any questions from the audience, if we have, before we finalize the panel.
Ma'am, sir, I'm a student of history. I actually graduated from Ambedkar University, which is in the campus of Dara Shikoh. And I would just like you to reflect upon any era which you are comfortable with and the cultural identity that it had at that point of time, which might be missing today. But any beautiful things about that cultural era. That's it. Thank you.
Well, you know, I am biased. My study has been of the 19th century. So that particular era, and I have a little bit of overlap there with Irfan Saab, and I have talked about some of that that culture of the later Mughals and really, what I find interesting is that in a lot of the popular culture, that era in Delhi's history is seen as a sort of an era of decadence and decay and all of that. And that has been, there are reasons for why those kind of narratives have been written about. And there has been, partly it has been a colonial narrative which wanted to show that, you know, this was a period of great decay and therefore justifies the kind of British clean sweep after 1857 that was so, you know, allegedly necessitated. But it is a period of great, shall we say, vibrancy, and some of the cultural aspects of that we've already talked about. But it is a period of great cultural efflorescence in many, many ways, in whether, and we've talked about whether it is journalism, there are new movements in poetry. It's the era of some great Urdu poets as well. But it is an era of, it is, for me specifically, I find one thing very interesting, that it's a period where Delhi's historic monuments get a lot of focus. So therefore, the Delhi Archaeological Society is set up, and people start studying the archaeology of the city, enumerating the monuments, writing about them, documenting them. So all of these interesting things are happening at that time.
The question you asked about your campus, you know, particularly about your campus and Dara Shikoh's library in that campus, you will be surprised to know that Dara Shikoh library had the Delhi College building. Delhi College was located in that library when 1857 happened. When the sepoys from Meerut entered the city, that Delhi College was the first target. Because that Delhi College had a reputation that here English education is provided. People who go there are actually the lackeys of the British colonial rulers. Ramchandra, who was one of the most prominent teachers, converted to Christianity in 1851 at St. James Church, which is there at Kashmiri Gate even now. And so he was baptized there. His student, Sakaullah, was also suspected that he will also convert. So with all this news in the air, the sepoys who entered, they targeted Delhi College. Unfortunately, and I have written a piece somewhere about it, one of the unfortunate parts of that whole upsurge for Delhi was the looting and destruction of that college. The precious library was littered with papers in the compound. There was, like when I was working, I couldn't find a single useful paper anywhere in Delhi libraries or even archives. I had to travel to Hyderabad, where some people actually took away those files and preserved them in Hyderabad. Raza Library, Rampur, kept Tazkiratul Kamilin, a book by this thing of Ramchandra. So nothing was stored anywhere. Most of the stuff was destroyed. So this was something which happened in 1857. This is one unfortunate episode in the whole upsurge which we faced. And your campus is witness to that, because that library is part of Ambedkar University's campus today.
Thank you, sir. We'll just take one more question from sir.
Mr. Shyam Saran is here, so I better get my dates correct. In 1955, I was 5 years old, and Bulganin and Khrushchev came. 1959, Eisenhower came, and 1961, that was the first visit of Queen Elizabeth to India. Now, I remember we were staying in Connaught Place because, I belong to a family which is absolutely original Delhi. Not only original Delhi, but also original New Delhi. My late father came to Delhi in 1938, and we lived in Connaught Place for 2011. Now, one is in touch with all the old all the old Delhi families. And my suggestion to you all will be that whenever you write anything or you have panel discussions, please dig out who these people are, who belong to old Delhi families. Nobody gets in touch with them. I can name the family of Hakim Ajmal Khan, who was the president of the Congress, M.A. Ansari, who was the president of the Congress. Nobody gets in touch with them. So please, do that. And what Irfan Saab was saying about, the revolution which brought about by the metro. Today, nobody knows who brought in the metro. It's all forgotten. And, I travel in metro quite a lot myself, and I'm shocked when people say so-and-so made the metro. But they have forgotten who actually made the metro. I don't want to see them because then it will become a political talk, right? And what I remember when the refugees came, Delhi had much more of a Punjabi culture. Today that Punjabi culture has totally disappeared and it's some other culture. You call it Hindustani, it's no longer even a Hindustani culture, but probably it's another culture which has taken over. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think with that we will like... Okay. Do we have time for this? Take one question.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Bhavleen Rekhi. Not a historian really, but a professor of digital marketing and artificial intelligence. My question is very generic. There were 2 points which actually caught my attention. I think both were made by Saima. One was that it's not always about evolution. We should always, look back and see what we have left behind along the way. And the second point was that Delhi should learn from its mistakes and should not make those mistakes again. Now, I want to, corroborate both these points and ask you that what do you think are the mistakes, major ones, that Delhi has made in the past and we need to recover from that? I also understand that you may not want to bring in political issues. I'm sure we have also made some cultural mistakes that you would love to talk about. So if I can get an answer, please.
So, the very first thing that we need to learn is whenever Delhi has gotten into conflict, we have stopped evolving. Only when we are together with our differing identities is when we thrive as a city. So that is the first thing we need to learn. Geographically, we might have different areas, but this city has learnt to stay together with different identities as one city. And when we start asking each other Are you from Bihar? Are you from UP? That's the mistake we are making as a city. We have seen that before, and we need to stop right there, because whoever is in this city is a Delhiite. So those are the things we need to remember. And also culturally we are rich because we are so diverse. We're all bringing in our cultural diversity and making this city, you know, a bedrock, a confluence of cultures. We should not forget that.
Thank you. Yes, sir, your question. Can we pass the mic here, please? Sir.
So, sorry, I don't speak Hindi, so I have to speak English. So, I come from far away, from a country that is called Italy, that has more or less some similar things with India, because even my country was a group of reigns and then was unified with another system. But in any case, I live for 13 years in Tamil Nadu, in an international city that is called Auroville. Unity in diversity, and now I'm in Delhi. I try to understand the Indian conception, the Indian culture and everything. So my questions is just to try to understand better. When I was in, the languages are important. With this I am completely agree. But when I was in the south, I spoke with Punjabi people, with Tamil, with that. And when I ask, you are Indian? No, I am Tamil. You are Indian? No, I'm Punjabi. So this was the first things that I saw. The second things, the identity and the languages that in India are a lot, are important. But when you, politically speaking, or when you start to think about a political union or all the country, it starts to become more complex. Because for me, at least, this is my idea, a common language for a nation, one common language is very important. Because, I don't say this is the science that say this, every language is important because it gives to you a perception of the world completely different. My mother tongue gives to me a vision of the world that is different from English. So your languages give to you a different vision of the world. So what I want to say that starting from Delhi and enlarge the vision to India as a country, I see a little bit these difficulties, real difficulties about a real union, identity, an Indian identity, not a state identity. And I think that the federal system doesn't help too much, but maybe I'm wrong.
Thank you so much for your question, sir. And I think this cannot be answered in the little time we have. So maybe we can speak outside with this panelist, right? Because we are running short of time here.
Can I just, however, just 2 lines?
Sure, sure.
We have, our concept of India as a nation is very different from European nations that may have, have had different histories of how they have become nations. Our development as a nation has had a very different trajectory, and it's all about what has been the history of that development. For instance, a very important part in our formation as a nation, as what we see ourselves today, has been the anti-colonial struggle, for instance. That's been a very, very important part of that, and it informed our conception of what ties us together, what, whether it is regions, religions, languages, and that vision which was solidified through the constitution that was worked on. So I think our trajectory has been very, very different.
I will just like to add what Swapna said, because for us, our heterogeneity, our diversity has been our strength. And that's where we again and again talk about unity and diversity and all sorts of things. These are very hackneyed sort of expressions, but we don't respect very much all those things. This one nation, one language, this cannot work in this country. You can talk about Europe, you can talk about Italy, France, Germany. These are all, like Italy was a geographical expression till Cavour and Garibaldi came and united and formed it into a nation. But for us, we are as a nation, not politically, but we were a nation centuries ago, with all the diversity, with all the different languages. And we saw ourselves as Indians. Now, even now, when I meet somebody in Europe, some Indian, from Tamil Nadu, for example, I start talking to him or her in English. Because that Tamil or Malayali who has never been to North India, knows nothing about Hindi, and we talk to each other in English. So my European friends who are sitting next to me, they are surprised that, what is this? You Indians meet and you talk in English? I said, this is the only language we have to communicate. We have no other language to communicate. I don't understand what he or she speaks. She can't understand what I speak. What is my mother tongue? English is the language which has made us communicable. So this is something which...
But I think that is also the beauty of what we are, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have also, included in English in our language list. Yeah. We have such a big heart.
There are many Englishes. There is no one English also.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very well said by one of the panelists. Delhi ki baahein sabke liye khuli hain, and we are proud of the fact we belong to this great city. And so that was an insightful discussion, shedding light on Delhi's rich history and its lasting influence on Indian identity. A huge thank you to our esteemed panelists for their thought-provoking perspectives, and to our moderator for steering the conversation so seamlessly. So now, we will have a short 10 minutes break and we'll come back to another interesting and engaging discussion. So we'll be back after 10 minutes. Where we explore the intersection of technology, AI, and cultural preservation. Our panelists bring diverse perspectives to this fascinating theme. We are honored to have with us Ms. Riaz Komu, a celebrated Indian artist and co-founder of the Kochi Mujeres Biennale, whose work bridges contemporary art and cultural narratives. Ms. Manisha Mohan, an award-winning virtual reality and interactive design artist and Dean, School of Design, Bennett University, Greater Noida, exploring the fusion of art and technology. Ms. Shalini Bansal, co-founder of Museums 22 and Hop on India, creating immersive cultural experiences for the future. Leading this discussion is our esteemed moderator, Dr. Ashwani R.S., Associate Dean, School of Liberal Art and Social Sciences, ILM University, Greater Noida. Now, let's dive into this exciting conversation. Over to you, Dr. Ashwani.
Hello. Am I audible? Yes. Thank you, Nidhi ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. We were fortunate to listen to a beautiful conversation on the culture and identity of Delhi. Now, a Delhi that we all are sitting in. So we said that people come here for the beauty of the city. People come here seeking livelihood. People stay here for something that Delhi has given each one of us, an identity. But we also understand that Delhi is undergoing a rapid urbanization. A lot of traffic congestion, pollution, Delhi's infamous pollution, right? So in this panel, we seek to explore how do we ensure that the soul of the city remains intact? How do we use technology and AI not just to document history, but also to make it immersive, to make it more accessible to people, and the evolving experience of us and our future generations? So we're going to explore Delhi as a digital archive, Delhi as an interactive classroom, and Delhi as a bridge between the past and the future. So I'm joined by my esteemed panelists. So we start with Riaz Kumu. Sir, over the last 1-2 months, I have been having this conversation with you. And I was particularly struck by what you said as people as heritage. And we had this conversation in the previous panel about Delhi Wala. And so what Delhi Wala kind of is, it's an identity that we assume to people who live in Delhi as a heritage, as a cultural identity. Now you, with the co-founder of Kochi Muziris Binale, and how could you kind of evoke that pride in the people of Kochi who had undergone multiple iterations of colonialism, from Portuguese to Dutch to French to even English, to kind of come together and re-evoke those memories of a colonial past, a collective memory, and through art and through technology, you got all of them together to evoke that. So if you could kind of walk me through that.
Thank you, Ashwini, and also it's a great honor to be part of this festival, and thanks the organizers again. I think, like Ashwini was saying, that it was fortunate to be part of the previous panel, because I think the entire panel was an attempt also to kind of reiterate and celebrate the idea of India's multiculturalism, and also cite Delhi as an historic site which celebrates India's diversity. So I thought, I mean, maybe before walking back to Kochi, again, as a site which we invoked by bringing new imaginations through art making, I think I can say a little bit about Delhi, I think, I mean, as an introduction. And also, I mean, as I see many students today here, just to, you know, maybe I'm not going into the detail of artificial intelligence today, but the moment we think about a particular site, a site which is used for, you know, producing cultural expressions in an era like this, where everybody gets into ChatGPTs and, you know, artificial intelligence as a kind of a site to research. I think there are few imaginations which, you know, comes to me as an artist who started working on this particular site since last 14 years. That time, the conversation of AI was not there. So when you entered a site like that, I'm just giving this point, maybe we'll come back to it later, but it actually kind of you know, emphasizes, or what it comes into your head is like, because we started thinking through AI in a very different way, we think that history future, you know, we sometimes think science future, we think, you know, in a very different way, like, I mean, heritage future. So there's a kind of a terminology which you kind of bring into your imaginations. So keeping that point aside, I mean, maybe we can take it back later in our, you know, AI conversations. But I would like to kind of, you know, connect from Delhi to Kochi in cultural terms, because in a post-independent India, when we got freedom, like, I mean, we also got a country in pieces. And the most important exercise which happened was the unification process. In that, as an artist, I always feel, you know, or I'm interested in looking at the contribution of culture in the exercise of unification. So when you, today Habib Saab was talking about Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. He was our first education minister along with a Nehruvian government. They came up with ideas to unify the country through also building academies and institutions. And Lalita Kala Academy and other Sahitya academies were one format. So just connecting to art, India was the first country which started a triennial. Triennial is like, a project which happens 3 years, similar to the biennial which happens 2 years, every 2 years. And it was the first project in the world which was also a platform which was created by a Nehruvian cosmopolitan imagination to make or open our gates for larger cultural imaginations and cultural discourses by bringing contemporary art practices. We had amazing minds, I'm not going into the details of it, amazing minds who led that. So moving from there, when you connect a project which was started in the late 60s and talking about a project which happened in Kochi in 2012, there is a very stronger link because as part of the nation building process, as something like a triennial did an exercise, then you, in Kochi, as part of an extended discourse to celebrate the idea of diversity, you located a project in a place where there are 30 different communities living together in a 3-kilometer square. So what it did was, like as Ashwini was putting it in the beginning, it actually invoked local pride because it is also a place which is almost like a residue of 4 different colonial performances from the Portuguese to the Dutch, smallest stint, and then the British. And what is Kochi today? It's almost like a residue of those kind of memories. But one important thing, in the introduction I would like to say is we also tagged along with another project which was Pattanam excavation site, which was happening in 40 kilometers away from Kochi, which was a site where there's a lot of excavations going on. So excavation became a very strong metaphor to kind of tag along with the project. So like I was saying in the beginning, what it invoked is invoked curiosity in a very tangible way, that in curiosity towards history, curiosities towards community settlements, curiosities towards languages, curiosity towards art making. So in another way, if you use that terminology in a contemporary context with youngsters, it is also, we can call it as an AI curiosity, because it's, we immediately kind of, to get on to research, because maybe in the last decade, we have an accumulated research data which is available, which reflects this kind of cultural sites. So I'm actually talking about maybe 14 years ago, we could, by making art or by producing art, we could create a community which is also AI curious, or knowledge curious, or technology curious, or science curious, or history curious. So I would have spoken about the biennial in a very different context, but because we are speaking in connection with artificial intelligence, I thought maybe this is an interesting, provocative introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. So, like Kochi, Delhi also has a layered history that spans multiple eras that we just heard a wonderful panel explore. So my question is to Shalini now. Hop On India and Museum 22 have been taking people around Delhi for the last more than 8 years. Can you tell us what you have been doing, how you have been doing this, and a little bit dive in also to storytelling and how do you use technology in this storytelling process?
That's a lot of questions, Ashwini, but I'll try and be precise. So, just to give you a little introduction about what we do and why we did it. So we, one of our vacations overseas, when we were in another country, we realized they don't have too much to tell, but they tell a lot. And they tell it very well. And we, on the other hand, have a lot to tell, but we don't tell it at all, the way we should do it. So that was the simple starting point that sort of triggered Hop on India. So we started developing content, we started writing stories, we started writing with Bombay actually to begin with. And we didn't want to limit ourselves only to monuments or to places which are as such considered suitable for visiting. We wanted to really talk about local cultures, talk about food, like someone said, talk about Chandni Chowk, talk about so much more that, where every road, every street, every gully has a history actually. There's a heritage, there's a culture that lives there. So that's how we started. We started developing content, and then we came to really deciding how we want to disperse this content, how we want to make it available to people who want to consume this. So just like everyone would think, we also decided it has to be an app, because that seems to be really a democratic way of doing it. And Hop on India therefore was built. It was a native app we built. We put our minds together. I come from the design background. I have nothing to do with technology whatsoever. At least till 8 years back, I didn't. I didn't even know there is something called Android and iOS and progressive web apps and stuff like that. So I learned along the way. We started building an app which would help people hear stories as they walk. So that's what we do at Hop on India. You can just download the app. Any one of you can download it. And so say if you're, for example, at Lodi Gardens, you go there, you get there is a tour which can take you around the street art, which is done around Lodi Gardens here, and also through the, the whole Sultanate period history here. So you start at the starting point and you put your phone away, and it geolocates you and it tells you the story of wherever you're walking. Oh, sorry. Your voice is a little low. Right, sorry. So you walk and you hear the story, and that's how you sort of come to know of what you're really seeing around yourself. That's what we did at Hop on. In Delhi, we cover very diverse areas. So we cover monuments like Qutub Minar, but we cover areas outside like the Nizamuddin Basti and the Humayun's tomb, and then the Chandni Chowk and the street art like I just told you, and then we do museums. We came to museums as an afterthought. First, we really decided we'll do this way. We made walks in Varanasi, so you can walk 40 ghats of Varanasi using Hop on India and listening to what those 40 ghats are about. And you would be surprised if you don't know about it. We went to Rabindranath Tagore's home in Kolkata and wrote about Pathuria Ghat, as it is called, and many more cities. We didn't have fat marketing budgets. We are a bootstrap startup. So then we decided we had to go somewhere where people came with the intent to listen and where we could make revenue, let's be very frank. So then we started looking at museums, and we decided we'll tweak our technology slightly. We'll start white labeling our technology and start working with museums. So we did a pilot with National Museum. It wasn't easy. So maybe that's a question for another time. But then COVID came, and fortunately or unfortunately, it speeded up the process for digitization. There was a need for digitization, and that's how museums then started approaching us. So now we have a good set of museums in India, and that's what we do. We do the storytelling of museums through audio guide apps. We do storytelling of streets and local culture through Hop on India.
That's very interesting, and I'm sure a lot of us would go home and download the app next time we are at these locations. My next question is to Manisha, ma'am. As someone who has first-hand witnessed your work on virtual reality in education and in hospitals, for a lot of research that you have done, even on this AR-enabled experience for the Mumbai Heritage Walk, could you please delve a little bit on that, part of how technology can be integrated into Delhi's heritage to make it more engaging for the youth?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful symposium. It was really a pleasure to be a part of it and listen to the previous panelists also. Learned a lot from them. So I think that's a very good questions. If I look back at my journey, it's been, I've worked in a company called Tata Interactive Systems in Mumbai for very long. And I was heading a team that was creating global products in virtual reality, augmented reality for customers in Japan, in the US, in Europe, and various countries. And some of the kind of projects we did were like recreating an ancient city for the American Association of Scientists, and really recreating it for collaborative research on Second Life. And that is very much possible here. Like I learned from the previous panelists that there are a lot of layers in Delhi. And technology is a beautiful way of bringing together the layers and unifying them. So you could actually go back in time and see how people lived, how they fought for food, how they did farming, and recreate history through it. And another interesting project was the one that we did for Mumbai Heritage Walk, where it was not virtual reality, but it was augmented reality. In some ways, I feel that augmented reality has more power than virtual reality, purely because of its accessibility. And here, you could hold your phone to a monument and get to know more about the monument. Of course, you had to make sure that it was a bright day, because, I mean, in those days, the technology did not support it if it was very dark for image recognition. But that whole journey, that whole user journey, or the journey of the tourist had to be mapped on very clearly so that you could use technology at the relevant touch points. What I really learned from working so long with technology and design and animation was that you can't pepper on technology just like you're putting pepper on your breakfast. You have to really pick the right elements to really use technology for. For instance, when we were doing technology for healthcare, it was about training nurses on how to interact with patients in an ICU, which maybe could not have been done in any other way. So using virtual reality for things which are not possible in any other medium. So if we are really selective about which technology to use where, and it's not just about the technology, it's about humanizing the technology and making it accessible to people of different age groups, of using it very prudently, making sure that the elderly are not left behind and children enjoy what the experience is. So it's all about building experiences. And for that, I think you need to understand people first and the context first, and then really bring in the technology. So.
Thank you, ma'am. Riya sir, I'm coming back to the question that you said you will delve into later on in the conversation about how do you think contemporary artists can actually use technology while re-archiving a site's heritage? Like, because you have extensively overseen projects where technology have been used in installations. So how do you think that kind of interact here in this context?
Yeah, I think the best thing about Kochi is in a post-independent India, I think Kochi produced the maximum amount of international art, because Kochi became a site of art production. And if I speak about the first edition of the biennial, which began on 12/12/12, it had around 86 artists, but half of them were from different countries. So they were invited and to speak about or study or understand Kochi's or Kerala's, cultural relationship with the larger world. Because see, if we sit and talk about Delhi, we have most of our imaginations revolves around terrestrial narratives, whether it is, the Mughal history or, any other, interesting citations which we make. But when you sit and think from Kochi, even as an historian or an artist or a researcher, you're actually thinking by keeping almost like the Indian map, placed upside down, because you are actually open to an ocean. So you are into an oceanic imagination, which in today's context, there are a lot of researches going on which discusses about Kerala's stronger or deeper history with, the Arabs or the Greeks or the Chinese, and, then in the modern, post Enlightenment era and, other contexts. But what we did, without using any, artificial intelligences which was available around that time, we invoked artists to kind of imagine, about, their own histories. For example, if I talk about an artist like Rigo 23, he produced a work which spoke about the Portuguese atrocities which occurred in Kochi. So it's an interesting, way an artist archiving a certain violent history which occurred or which happened through his own, the people back in Portuguese. And he tells that story and he creates it by tangible means. And you can actually, say Ernesto Neto, an artist who came from Brazil, who spent almost a month producing a work. He produced a work around the spices, and he created a work through smell. And Ai Weiwei, a Chinese artist who is very, very popular, he also created a work which was almost very site-specific. So all these kind of imaginations which were bought in and which celebrated Kochi's cultural past, at the same time it also brought back the blood relationship Kochi had with a larger world. So it somehow, in a very different way, through the means of art making, Kochi started celebrating a globality which was not celebrated before. So if you connect it with the terminology where, when we were expressing what Kochi actually does, we can connect it with the word digital. Because it was also, we are also living in an era, if you divide that word, dig it all. Because we are also have pushed or pulled into a kind of a certain politics post-digging in a modern India. But Kochi was a site which invoked or provoked people under the leadership of Kerala Council for Historical Research. Use your scientific temperament as we dig deeper. So I still remember the director of Kerala Council for Historical Research speaking in a forum, which was in the first edition Biennale's forum. He was explaining to a larger international audience what is happening in Kerala's site of excavation in Pattanam, which is kind of a site which they imagine part of Muziris, the oldest port city. So he explains in the context of today that if you dig 1 meter in Pattanam, you cross 1,000 years of history, because it's a very layered, historic site, because it is also a site which has gone through a massive flood in the 13th century. Post that flood, Kochi emerges as a new port city. So Muziris was the ancient port. Then he says that if you dig 2 meters in Pattanam, which was happening in front of us, you cross 2,000 years of history. Then you engage in digging the 3rd meter below. Then you are able to kind of cross the sites of conflicting religions. So you bring that, a very interesting imagination he brings in. So you go past, deeper into a different kind of a cultural imagination. So I would say, in the context of this discourse, even for students to imagine, see, with AI, you can go in a very different tangent into history, because Because we also like live in a society where, you know, labor is divided by a certain kind of a hierarchy. I mean, if you look at India, you know, that's in India or the subcontinent in that sense, we also like, I mean, the victims of a certain kind of feudalism. And that feudalism is an ongoing process. Today, I look at as an artist, AI as a digital laborer working for a techno-feudalist. So I can imagine like that. But as an artist, if I look at a site of imagination or a site like Kochi or a site like Goa or a site like Pondicherry or a site like even Delhi, I might be able to kind of bring in a certain memory of pride into my imagination to enjoy a heritage of a place. See, today we had a book here, I mean, which was, you know, kept next to Habib sir. You know, a short biography of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. But me as a citizen of India, I feel very proud that our first education minister was born in a pilgrim city like Mecca and came in and integrated into a culture with a kind of scholarly intelligence. So that, you know, you're also integrated. So this is my uniqueness, which is provided through my mind, which, you know, which I can continue to celebrate.
May I stop you for a second because I have a follow-up question. Now you said that book was sitting here. This is a very tangible thing.
Yeah.
Now, how do you think technology and AI, when it comes into our life and more so in their life, there's no tangibility as such probably for this. So how do we kind of presuppose that relation from tangible art installations to intangibility of art and heritage and culture?
See, there is a process, I don't know, I mean, how much I can explain it to, but I'm sure students will be very curious to kind of know that. I mean, also, you know, the members in this panel who are also part of the history of institutions which engaged in making, you know, I mean, played a big role in the area of design. See, there is something which I believe in 2018 biennial, when I was the director of programs, I titled the Students' Biennale, Making as Thinking. So it's a similar thing. I mean, when students, if they try to kind of apply, you know, the idea of making, which normally doesn't get audited into the cultural discourses. I mean, what does an artist think when he's making something? It doesn't get articulated very well. That's one reason art always stands behind maybe the line of other, you know, art forms. So yeah, it's actually a very fascinating, you know, sight to imagine. For example, if I can explain to them the idea of making as thinking in a tangible way, I would say the lion capital is our national symbol, taken from a Buddhist idea of spirit of diversity. Ashoka takes it, creates, you know, as a symbol of, or as a memorial to the first sermon done by Buddha in Sarnath. The Ashoka, you know, the Ashoka, I mean, the lion capital on top of Ashoka pillar, it is actually a meaningful symbol of making us thinking, because it celebrates a certain kind of an idea of also nation. That's why it was taken as a symbol. So, I mean, I would look at that as one, you know, very interesting example. Making of constitution, I would think, is one of the most fascinating, which India engaged at the time of violence with a great, you know, scholarly participation from a diverse community, sat together, thought through, taken like many days of exercise, talking, discussing, understanding the country, and you produce something like a constitution. That is also a product of making us thinking, you know, so that's how I look at it, I mean.
That's actually a very interesting take, making as doing. But my intangibility question also lead me to Shadini, about what are the challenges and myths that you have faced along your journey that you would like to talk about?
So I would say the challenges have come not from the users, frankly, but but from those who would make us reach the users. When we launched Hop on India and we went to the museums as well, there was a lot of apprehension about whether people would really download apps. There were a lot of questions that I was asked around why would people want to use their phones to really take a guided tour around a museum or a city, for example. That was a challenge we faced. There was a lot of myth as well around technology wanting to actually kill or overtake culture. That's not something that's not the purpose of technology. The way we look at it, technology supports or gives a voice, like you just said, to art, to culture, and to a lot more. So what we want to do is to be able to support this whole experience, make it more immersive, make it more learning, make it more user-centric. The challenge, however, we faced was the acceptance of this. But now we have numbers to prove that it's really worked well. So we are in various places. An example that may actually, so a lot of you wouldn't know the Mumbai airport is actually a museum. Those of you who've flown out of the Mumbai airport may have seen a lot of artwork there. There's a lot of art installations there. I'm sorry, that's not an example from Delhi. So it is actually a museum that was visualized while the airport was actually rebuilt a few years back. It has 5,500 artifacts and 1,000 artisans worked along with 100 artists under the mentorship of Rajiv Sethi, the curator. When we went to the Mumbai airport, this is a case study that I must talk of because it was one of the easiest, by the way. I just made a cold call to Mumbai airport to say we've done something like this and we feel there's so much you've done there, no one really knows what you've done. So they just jumped at the idea. They said, we've been looking for something like this for the last 5 years. The security at the airport does not allow us to keep audio devices, and we cannot possibly rent out and take back audio devices. We've been looking for someone who can tell the stories, and we can't get in so many people. Passengers are interested, but we can't tell them the stories. So then we made this app for them. So at Mumbai airport, you will see there are scan codes put up at each installation. You can scan those and you can listen to the story of the installation in front of you. The numbers speak for themselves. So you have passengers who are actually there to catch a flight, who are running at the airport actually, against time. But they do listen and they do scan. There are people, we've got downloads, we've got figures at the back end. In fact, that has been a major purpose with which we started this whole thing. We wanted to make it data. We wanted to give it data evidence. We wanted to inform this whole decision making with data. So there is numbers, we provide a backend to the museum where they can see in real time how many users are really using, what are they listening to, which languages are they listening to in, what points are they finding the most interesting, what are they not listening to at all, and so on and so forth. So there have been many challenges, but then there have been some good experiences as well. The challenges have decreased over time. It's about 5-6 years now since we've been with the museums. The other challenge that I must talk of, which will perhaps be very tricky to talk of, is that most of this belongs to the government. Most of the museums, most of the sector belongs to the government. It's not been easy for us as professionals to really crack it, though we work with a lot of government museums. We've done NGMA, we have a National Museum, Salar Jung. We work very closely with the government of Gujarat, where we're bringing 15 of their museums on one app, and many more. But that has been a huge challenge. So,
Shalini. But what about this challenge of inaccessibility? So there's this, one of my colleagues had developed this VR experience where a lot of, older people would want to go to Kedarnath and kind of do their puja there. as an emancipation process, but because it's too inaccessible, it's so difficult to reach there and do it. So what he did is he created this VR experience of you can sit at your home and put on your goggles or whatever that is called, and you can actually digitally go there and see a 360-degree of Kedarnath, and you can go into the Sacrum Sanctorium and do the puja. And you really, I mean, I tried it when he was doing his first couple of iterations. We were his guinea pigs. Then we would go and give him feedback. And it came out to be really, really beautiful. So, Manisha ma'am, I'm taking this challenge to you about how do you think VR and AR can bridge the gap and provide these immersive experiences for those people who are unable to visit these heritage sites in Delhi due to traffic congestion or pollution?
So I think your answer is in your question. Because you can definitely do that with VR in terms of bringing a distant land to somebody who cannot travel or doesn't either has certain disabilities, or they could be age, or it could be just somebody who does not have time to travel. I mean, if I look back during COVID, when we could not travel, and at that time I had moved into academics, and we wanted our students, our design students, to visualize different spaces for interior design. So we used like the Google sort of the 3D spaces to really visualize, and we used VR at that time. So it helps you visualize when you cannot travel. But then one has to be a little cautious because you do experience giddiness with extended use of VR. So if you're talking about the elderly, one has to be conscious of the latency issues also. That beyond 10 minutes or so, they will not be able to sort of go through it. Maybe the younger people can, and so one has to be conscious of the experience itself and how you design it for different age groups at every stage. But definitely the opportunity is there to create experiences for those who cannot go there. And not only that, it can also bring together layers of what happened in a particular place, where you can recreate what happened maybe a century ago, or 200-300 years ago, or recreate something that was destroyed by an earthquake or a volcano. I think the city of Pompeii in Italy has been recreated like that through a VR experience. So similar to that, a lot of our monuments, they can be recreated, and you can go back into history of where they were made, what was the thought, what was the emotion behind building them. Because I think with people, it's all about stories that are hidden. It's not the buildings alone that appeal to people. It's the stories that are hidden behind it, the passion, the people that we want to bring to life. And that's what VR can do over and above just recreating it from a digital perspective. And what we should do is create a 3D scan of all our monuments, because God knows, with time and weathering and disasters as they come, God forbid, we should not lose some of them. So we should archive those buildings and keep them safe in a digital form, so that generations to come can learn about them and be a part of them.
Thank you, ma'am. So I think everyone in this panel is quite optimistic about technology taking over and making cultural heritage and preservation a much more deeply personal experience. So one concluding remark by each of my speaker, and then I would open it for my students. Yes.
So I think because most of the audience here is really young, I really think this sector can do with some young blood. Very few of us who really work on the cusp of culture, heritage, and technology. Typically, people in the sector of culture tend to shy away from technology, and it is seen as a space of conflict. However, that's not the case, and I would really encourage some students to take this up as a part of at least your classroom projects, if not your careers, to begin with. That's it.
Thank you.
So I think my point is quite related to what Shalini just said. People like me have seen the whole evolution of technology, right from floppy disks to CD-ROMs and so on. And now VR and then HoloLenses and then, now AI is taking over and getting democratized. But your generation, there are a lot of possibilities. There are more possibilities than challenges, I would say. And I would say that you could really make the most of it, and you can take it like 10x more than we were ever able to take it. There are a lot of things that you can do for preserving the heritage of Delhi and more, and the energy of Delhi, the passion and the emotion of the people.
Yeah, just going back, the word which Ashani used in the beginning to connect with Kochi, that how I was, trying to look at, when I started working, looking at people as heritage. I think it's a very important, maybe a door to enter into cultural landscape, to understand kind of a larger ecology or, the spirit of coexistence. But as students, like coming to the use of AI, me as an artist, somebody who's engaged in creative practices, I feel that the uniqueness each human being has, every individual has one's own uniqueness. Unless and until you share that uniqueness to maybe whether it is a digital space or other kinds of knowledge spaces or expressions, the world doesn't know that. So it's always important that one invests into one's own imaginations and ideas to come up or keep generating that unique propositions to also enjoy life in a very different way, rather than keep depending on the excess data which is available for making our life easy or simple and not unique. I think I would request you youngsters to kind of be very confident about one's own uniqueness, one's own unique mind.
Thank you, that's really beautiful. Now I open the floor up for questions.
The question is to Ms. Shalini. The government has transferred many bureaucrats like Mr. Arun Singhal and Mr. Ashok Khemka to the archives department in an effort to sideline them. Could it be related to the apathy which you experienced in working with the government?
I don't think I'm in a position to answer that question at all. I have nothing to do with that actually, thanks.
So when it comes to these monuments and everything, there's a history, there's a culture. These places, they bring people together. And whether it's augmented reality or it's virtual reality, that whole connectivity that's there with people, that's your culture being shared, you actually interacting with people, learning from their stories, learning from their perspectives, that entire element gets lost. So that does have a lot of psychosocial and even cultural aspects. And it's a catalyst of people actually losing touch with other people and losing that whole aspect of people as heritage. And just focusing on, what's in front of you, whether it's real or whether it's augmented reality. So what's your take on that?
Who have you raised the question to?
In general, to all the panelists.
Any of you.
So I'll take a stab at it. I don't think that it tends to alienate you in any way, because it opens up more possibilities rather than like a tourist going alone to a place and not being able to figure out what is what. It's nice to be able to, put up your phone there and you get to know about the history, the culture, and maybe you also get connected with other researchers or other people who have found something relevant over there, and you're able to communicate with them. So because of the social aspect of technology, you're able to also collaborate and communicate with others who may have been there maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago and have some experiences to share. So I don't fully agree with your point. I feel that technology has the power to bring people together if it's used in the right way.
Maybe just add an answer to how culture projects executed in a particular location. Like, for example, Kochi I was talking about. In 2016, the biennial curated by the famous artist Sudarshan Shetty, there was an artist from Argentina who passed away, who was a very famous writer. I'm not able to remember his name. He passed away at the time of COVID. He actually wrote in the entire city of Kochi, Fort Kochi and Mattancheri, a novel which he had written, and the entire, if you have to really read that, you have to walk around, from, the first chapter. So what is happening through that project is like you get explored to the nook and corners of a particular settlement, which is also a residue of a port city. So there are sometimes it was also the biennial which had a lot of digital expressions, digital projects, performances, which gives you a different dimension to understand the settlement, the history of the place. So I would say that particular way of that, novelist writing his novel through all the city is actually a new way of also walking through that tangible experience of moving around, plus reading the imaginations which he communicates in the novel. So it's a very double experience which you get.
Any other question? Yes.
Thank you. That was a great session. My question is about the susceptibility, of technology being influenced by the objectivity or subjectivity of the creator. When, for example, you create a VR of a certain place, historical site, and how one can avoid the danger of, that entire project being influenced by certain, in an era of fake news and whatnot. So I would love to hear what you have to say about it.
I'll take that question. So we've done storytelling. Can you hear me? Yeah. We've done storytelling for, I think, about 500 itineraries by now, including museums and, various geographies and various cultures. You're absolutely right in saying that there may be a bias. However, what we've tried to do is really do first-hand research and a lot of research, steer clear of any controversial, if I may say so, narratives, and really try to bring ahead what has been said through various layers of history. It's not an easy task. But your question is very relevant because that is it's the trickiest part of storytelling actually. Becomes easier with museums where you're doing artifacts, becomes more difficult when you're doing local cultures and monuments in India. The attempt has been to sort of steer clear and make it as neutral as possible and only base it on research and actual fact-based findings.
I had a slightly contradictory perspective which I wanted to share. because I feel that in this story, the storyteller should be there to make it more interesting. I don't know if you've seen this film on glass by Bert Hanstra. This filmmaker made two versions of a film of a glass factory. And one was the factual sort of story of how glass is made. And the other was his interpretation, his magical interpretation of it. And believe me, the magical interpretation was far more interesting. So if you want stories that people can relate to, sometimes you have to live with the fact that those are the ones that have the storyteller in them. And I think interpretation of history also, a lot of it is by the scribe who wrote it, the person who wrote it. A lot of that interpretation comes in, and that's what makes it more interesting.
I think with this, we can kind of end this panel. So I think we had two panels where we talked about how beautiful Delhi is, and not just Delhi as a city, but also its beautiful monuments. But I think though people come here for the beauty of the city, this is also the place that helps us think about where the world is going. And rightly so, in this panel, we have explored the intersection between technology, AI, and cultural preservation, and where this world is rightly going, and how Delhi would become kind of a hub in how this cultural preservation would happen using technology, which would probably be in your hands. With this, I thank my panelists, Riaz Komu, Manisha Mohan, and Shalini Bansal. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you, panelists, for sharing your knowledge and usage of virtual technology and AI and cultural preservation, and engaging in a thought-provoking discussion. A heartfelt thank you to all our esteemed panelists for sharing their invaluable insights on how technology and innovation are shaping cultural preservation, and a special thanks to our moderator for guiding this fascinating conversation. With that, we conclude today's session. Thank you all for being a wonderful audience and for joining us in celebrating Delhi's past, present, and future. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for another day of enriching discussion, ideas, and inspiration. Thank you all.